Welcome back to Think, the podcast with me, Dylan Schreibman. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me for another conversation. I am so happy that you are here. This is episode 10. Today's topic that we are thinking about, we are reflecting on what it has felt like to be an LGBTQ plus person in America during the first 2 months of this administration. Again, before we jump into the topic, I want to remind you that this podcast is a safe space for my LGBTQ plus community and its allies. The world, and more specifically, this country, has been shifted over the past, especially 2 months, with its rhetoric and with the attacks on our community. So, this is a safe space. If you just need to take a moment, I am here. The ACLU has reported 527 anti-LGBTQ plus bills currently in the 2025 legislative season. That is a really staggering number and really mind-blowing if you think of it. 500 plus bills. Let's think where we are for a second. When I post this podcast, the date will be March 25th, 2025. It is not even 3 months into 2025. We are coming up on just 3 months, a quarter of the year. It has barely been 2 months since Inauguration Day, and the president has taken office for the second time. So, approximating, let's say, 60 plus days into the administration of the new president, just over 60 days, and there have already been 500 plus bills that have been brought to the floor. That number is staggering and will continue to climb. I can almost guarantee that. And I know some of you are going to come on here and pop a comment and say, it's not all him. Like, you have to blame Congress. It's a conservative like Congress, so I do assign some of the blame towards them. And I assign some of the blame towards him as he is the leader of the party and has such great influence in the party. So, yes, a lot of it has to do with him. I don't care what you say. 527 bills that are currently on the floor that are against my community. And people sit here and ask, why are you scared? How are you being attacked? What is the president and the current Congress doing to attack you? Just look at the statistics. Look at the statistics. 527 bills. And I've said that number at least 4 or 5 times since I've been taping this, but it's staggering. It's mind-blowing. It's deserves to be said. I don't know if deserves is the word, but it needs to be brought to the attention. That is a big number. And that is the answer to the questions that I just asked. Why we're feeling attacked, how we're being attacked, and why it feels unsafe sometimes to be in this country. Just look at that number alone. Look at that number alone that the ACLU has reported and in this current legislative season, and that is why we feel that way. So next time you want to come in my comments or, on whatever social media platform and say that, that is why I feel that way. Just know that is the answer. I wanted to look at some of the issues that the LGBT plus community is facing under this current administration. I looked at these through the ACLU site when I was looking at that staggering number of 527 anti-LGBT plus laws in this current session. The first is, and I've talked about this one before on a previous podcast when I was talking about LGBT plus rights. That was when the administration had just taken over and it was within the first few weeks of the transfer. The path that the current administration is taking when it comes to LGBT plus rights is really frightening. And if they continue to take this path, which they show no sign of slowing down or reversing any direction, it will really become even riskier for our community, especially the transgender community. Bills like not allowing people to update their gender information on IDs, first of all, it's extremely restrictive. Second of all, it places a risk of safety to the transgender community. And it also places a risk to impact people's personal lives, including risk of something like losing their job, which would really impact their lives in today's economy. The current man who sits in the Oval Office has already hinted at attacking trans rights as a top platform in the 2026 midterms. He has been, according to them, he has been quoted saying, I want to get the exact quote. Okay, he has been quoted in a meeting this week saying that he has told GOP politicians to strategically time their use of trans athletes as a wedge issue. He said, quote, "Don't bring that subject up because there's no election right now, but about a week before the election, bring it up because you can't lose." End quote. Again, I saw this on them. That quote and the way he's incorporating his strategy moving forward shows that there's no sign of him reversing his policies, which I didn't expect. But it is showing the strategy that the party is going to use moving forward. They have already used the attack of trans rights and more generally the LGBT plus community in this current administration and during the last election cycle. So it's not a surprise. I didn't bring that quote up to shock anyone, or that quote wasn't going to surprise anyone. We all knew that's the strategy. It doesn't make it any less dangerous, and it doesn't make it any better because people's lives with that strategy and belief system are at risk. People that follow that man are extremely loyal. People that supported that man during the election and continue to support him during this current administration will believe anything he says, no matter if what comes out of his mouth is the truth or not. Their fact check is him. It's not an actual fact check, which makes him saying quotes like that and attacking my community really dangerous because I've said this before, it allows people who have always been homophobic or felt that way to be loud about it and not have to hide about it anymore or be quiet about it. It allows people to spew their hate loudly. And if you are in the community, that makes your life at risk. And this feeling of unsafety at all times. Now, I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to allow people to scare me. But the logistical side of it is technically, if that's what that man is spewing and his followers and supporters believe anything that he says, that really makes us unsafe at all times. People, it's a shame that people can't just allow people to be who they are without judgment and without wanting to restrict their rights. People need to be who they are to travel, to be happy, to enter public establishments, especially using the restroom. And bills like this are moving our country backwards, not forwards. The next issue that I want to talk about has also been in the forefront for a while, and that is bans on drag shows and LGBT plus books. Drag queens are not the problem in this country. I have never felt unsafe around a drag queen. I think there are bigger problems that we need to look at, and I don't know why there's such a minuscule focus on drag queens from the conservative side. I don't know why that's the issue that they have decided to hone in on. I think they could hone in on a lot of other issues that are probably more prominent and need to be dealt with, unlike drag queens. Exposing children to gay culture is necessary. Kids need to be taught what the world is and a reflection of the world, and gay culture is a part of that. I believe that most people that are homophobic in some way just have not been exposed or educated about gay culture. They're either not around it, they grew up in a small town where there are not a lot of gay people. They grew up in a household where their parents do not accept the culture, or their parents wouldn't accept their kids being gay. That lack of exposure and education about it is the barrier standing in between. I also promise you, if a drag queen comes into your child's school and reads them a book, it will not turn them gay. Being gay is not a choice, it's who you are. If your child is straight, a drag queen reading them a book in elementary school will not impact their dating life. The only thing that it will impact, and this is in a positive way, if there is a child that is a part of the LGBT plus community, it will make them more comfortable. It will make them comfortable in their journey to see other people in the world that are a part of the same community as them. It will make them comfortable to be who they are. It will not impact your straight child. I wish that when I was in elementary school, a drag queen came and read me a book. I wish when I was growing up, there were more examples of gay love on mainstream television. I wish when I was growing up, there were more books with LGBT plus characters. It would have made my coming out journey probably a lot easier. And it would have made me feel safer of because of the exposure that it is okay. And I'm allowed to be who I am, and I'm allowed to love who I love. So please get out of this notion of it's going to impact my child. No, it's not. It is not going to impact your child's sexuality. Even if a child isn't a part of the LGBT plus community, I think they should be exposed to the gay culture and the LGBT plus community at an early age. And drag queens going to read books or them having books with gay characters in it will expose them and will help them in a positive way. There is nothing negative about it. So please get that out of your mind. The next issue that the LGBT plus community is facing is healthcare restrictions on transgender youth. I do want to point out this bill exempts identical treatments offered to cisgender youth. Allow people to be who they are. This goes back to exposure. If you would see the examples of positive change and how happy people are being who they are, why would you want to restrict their health care? Why would you want to restrict their happiness? Why are you exempting identical treatments to cisgender youth? For a party that is kind of a mind your business when it comes to the government party, there are sure a lot of things that they're getting in people's business about, this being one of them. There just seems to be a lot of wanted restrictions for a party that claims they want to stay out of your business. This continues to show the level of oppression that the government currently is trying to place on our country, if I'm being frank. This adds to the mass targeting of marginalized communities. There should be no restrictions when it comes to somebody's health, when it comes to healthcare in this country. If somebody identifies as transgender, what does that have to do with you? It has nothing to do with you. So all you're doing is restricting somebody else's happiness and oppressing. You exempting identical treatments to cisgender youth is telling me all that I need to know. And it really should open your eyes. It really should open your eyes. If somehow you have not been paying attention, this right here should open your eyes to what the government is trying to do, what restrictions they are trying to place on the LGBTQ community, especially the trans community. If you feel somehow that this is correct, what they're doing, I want you to imagine, I want to make it clear I don't, but I want you to imagine, what if this was your child? What if this was your child coming to you and wanting to feel safe talking to you about something like this? What if this was your child coming to you wanting to feel safe to tell you that they are transgender? You still agree with what the government is doing? I think some people don't think of things until it impacts them personally. If this was your child, you're telling me you would tell them no. You would tell them that you don't accept them. To me, that is cruel. That is cruel if you cannot accept your child for being a part of the LGBT plus community. That I just can't see a plausible explanation around that. And you disowning your child because they are a part of the community. That just shows me who you are as a person and not a good one. I also do want to point out that the first case heard about gender affirming care in court is set for July 21st. So that will come up quicker than expected. Time always flies. The next issue I want to talk about is the restriction of bathroom usage for transgender people. People need to use the bathroom. That's a natural part of life. I never understood why we are so worried about what bathroom people use. I'm for gender neutral bathrooms. I think they should be a thing. I'm gonna say this, and I think I'm not saying all, but some straight people care too much about gender and place way too much of an emphasis on gender of there's only two genders and yada yada yada. No, that is no. There's way too much of an emphasis on gender. I'm sorry. Speaking specifically of the transgender community, a trans woman is a woman. So she should be able to use the woman's bathroom. It's, I mean, again, I'm for gender neutral bathrooms, but under the current, it's really not that big of a deal to me. I'm not gonna sit up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be mad that somebody used the bathroom. Like, I, it's not that big of a deal. And I think there does not need, again, the government does not need to be oppressing and getting into people's business by ordering restrictions. If you're going to be a party of we mind our business kind of government party, then be that. You're not being that right now. The next restriction I want to talk about, and I use that word intentionally as that's what they are, is the restriction of gay people getting married. First of all, why do you care who we marry? It doesn't impact you. It has nothing to do with you, yet you want to step in the ring like Muhammad Ali and insert yourself in the fight for no reason at all, because again, it has nothing to do with you. There are multiple states, I believe up to nine now, that are asking the Supreme Court to reverse the 2015 ruling of what made gay marriage legal in this country. I do want to point out Kamala Harris wouldn't have done this or pushed for it. She was right there in the center of it in California when it got passed on the phone. We all saw that video of telling the people at the courthouse, no, they can get married, like marry them. I did want to point that out. I'm not asking, and I say this over and over again. I'm not asking you to marry someone that you don't want to marry. If you are a straight man and you want to marry a woman, that is fine with me. That is totally fine with me. I don't care. I'm your friend. I'm gonna come to the wedding. I've been to them before. Why do you feel the need to step in and restrict who I want to marry? I'm not coming after you. I don't care. You shouldn't, you should feel the same way towards me. If somebody is in love and is happy, what does it matter? The gay community is going to be here regardless. It's not like you're going to restrict gay marriage and magically the whole community is going to go away and nobody's going to be gay anymore. That's not going to happen if that's your goal of this or what people want, you know, to be what people want or what people want to be the outcome of this. That's not going to happen because back to my earlier point, being gay is not a choice, it's who you are. You were born that way. So the community is not going to go away. I just don't see the big deal if I want to marry a man, why do you want to restrict that? I will marry a man one day. I will find my person soon. And I'm going to get married no matter what you think about it. And again, I want to bring up this question that I used earlier to use in this context. If you were a parent or a really good friend came to you or a family member came to you and came out to you, you're telling me you would disown them or end that friendship, you would not accept them. I just can't see that. I can't process that. If one of your good friends came to you and was like you knew them before they came out and then they came out and they started dating a person that they really loved and they end up getting married, you're telling me you wouldn't go to the wedding? You wouldn't celebrate your friend? That says a lot more about you than anyone else. To me, as long as you're happy with that person and you love that person and you two are happy together, I doesn't bother me any. Girl, I'll come to the wedding. I invite me to your I invite me. I love weddings. You can, if you're watching this and you're getting married, invite me, girl. I do want to point out legally what's happening in the news, just so you can be aware. Lawmakers and this is according to NBC News, lawmakers in 9 states have proposed measures to somehow undermine same-sex marriage rights. Five of those measures, including one in Michigan, urged the Supreme Court to overturn that 2015 ruling that I was talking about. In Michigan, the measure was introduced by Josh Shriver, a Republican who was elected in the 2022 elections, and he said in a statement, quote, is at odds with the sanctity of marriage, the Michigan Constitution, and principles upon which the country was established. Increased instances of religious persecution have been a consequence of the court's ruling 10 years ago, end quote. Similar measures to reverse the 2015 ruling have been introduced in states so far: Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. The Idaho House actually passed a resolution last month by a vote of 46 to 24, and the North Dakota House also passed a measure by 52 to 40. Then there are lawmakers in at least four additional states, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Texas, that have introduced bills as well. They don't refer to the 2015 decision, but if they were to sign into law, marriage would only be allowed for one man and one woman. So it's actually happening in this country. And again, back to the question of why do we feel attacked or how do we feel like we're being attacked? This is another example and at the forefront. I also do want to point out there was a 2022 poll that nearly 70% of Americans support gay marriage. If this is a democracy, which it is, you should listen to the people. The people should have the power. I don't see how, as a government, you can pass or attempt to pass restrictions on an issue that the American people support. 70%. It's also an overwhelming number. It's not like barely over 50. And if you're going with the religious argument of it violating my religious sanctity. God loves all, and God made us who we are. So therefore, you should love thy neighbor and accept me for I am. To me, if you love God and have good values, you would actually be supporting us and not coming after us. Also, news just broke that the president is considering signing an executive order that will end HIV prevention program, an order that, if signed and goes through, will cost people their lives. How much more do we have to take? How much more do you need to see this man is not for the people? That could be the lives of somebody's brother, somebody's sister, somebody's friend that is taken with this program or programs ending. What if that was somebody that you knew? Or what if that is somebody that you know, I should say? Consideration of signing something like this shows he's in it for himself. He doesn't care about the rights of people, especially people in the LGBT plus community. He doesn't care that his order will literally impact people's lives. At one point, enough is enough. Enough is enough. I do want to wrap this up, but I do want to say in this decision of whether you're for as an ally or a part of the community or against us, please make the right decision. Please stand on the right side of history. You are choosing if you are for human rights and every American having rights, or you wake up every day and decide to use that energy to take away people's rights. It's your choice. So I pray that you make the right one. I'll see you next time.